I'm Lindsay, and I am now going to be the ginger zebra. I am coming on here because I want to give a realistic representation of what it's like to live with chronic pain and chronic conditions. Most people don't understand what we live through, what we do, and how we manage in life. The first time I'm going to come on here, I'm simply just going to tell you about me, what I live with, what conditions I have. And forgive me, my ceiling fan's a little finicky right now, so if it starts flashing, I will just flip it off. So I'm just going to kind of go into my major conditions first. We're going to talk a little bit about just my life. I'm a mother. I'm in my mid to late 30s. I have two children. One is 8, almost 9. The other is 6. I am married. I do have a very supportive husband. He does have ADHD. My daughter is the oldest. She is very intelligent, very ahead of her time, very much reads above her level. I don't worry about her at all. My son, on the other hand, is ADHD, could possibly have some of the conditions that I have, and is a little bit on the slower side. He just takes a little bit longer to process things. He's very smart, like my daughter, but just doesn't quite get things as quickly as my daughter does. He is a kindergartner, and he is coming along, but it'll just take him a little bit longer. I do work full-time. I'm in sales. I work in the healthcare industry with how we do things. I sell a product that actually helps healthcare providers to get paid faster. And I do actually have quite a bit of knowledge about prescriptions and Medicare, as I used to be a Medicare claims agent. I left that world simply because it was too stressful and it was causing even more problems with my health. Previous to that, I was an injury claims adjuster and an automobile claims adjuster. I spent about 10 years doing that. Prior to that, I was in college and high school. So that's just kind of a brief summary of just where I am in life. We live in the Kansas City metro area. I do live on the Kansas side, and so a lot of options that may be available to some others are not available to me because of illegal things. My biggest and main conditions is I do have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. I am the hypermobile type, which means yes, my body moves in ways that it absolutely shouldn't. And yes, that's my dog barking. He's a puppy still, so he does like to be chased a lot. I also have, and don't worry, I'll go in at some point and tell you about all these conditions and what I do for them. I also have fibromyalgia, and yes, I do have a list because there's so many of them. I have posterior I have POTS, which is a dysautonomia. It basically is, I get very dizzy when I stand up. I get very hot and cold very easily. I can easily pass out. I have scoliosis. Not only does my spine twist this way, I have a backward S curve, but I actually have a curve that goes this way as well within my body. I've recently been told I most likely have sciatica with my scoliosis as well. I also have thoracic outlet syndrome. I have thoracic spondylolisthesis. I've had chronic back pain since I was even a young girl. That goes all the way back to even when I was in single digits in age. I've had chronic pain my whole life. It didn't get very bad until the last few years. I do have dislocations. That is one of the things with Ehlers-Danlos that you will find. My dislocations did start very young, to the point that doctors and even my parents did not understand what was going on. But again, we'll address that in another episode. Migraines are one of my major issues. I have more than 50% of the month that I do have migraines, meaning I do basically live with a daily headache, but my headaches are above and beyond the normal. When I get a very strong migraine, it does go to the point where I can actually hallucinate, and I can actually imagine my husband sitting right next to me or talking to me. I also can see double. I have about 5 rescue medicines for my migraines, and we still can't get it completely under control at this point. So we're still working on that. I do have chronic fatigue, meaning that basically at any given day I feel like I have the flu, and there's really nothing that can be done about that. I'll be ready to turn that light off. Obviously, with all of these things, depression comes in the mix. There's no real way to handle a lot of this, and so it's just kind of one of those things that comes along with it. I do really well at trying to stay out of this because my kids need me, and they're gonna have me. They're not gonna lose me. I'm not gonna get away with that. I do suffer from anxiety. I have always had anxiety ever since I was a child. I never really understood how a lot of things happened and didn't really just believe without seeing. I was always one who wanted to know exactly what was going on. Panic attacks are something that have come more recently in years. Mostly since I've had children, I do like to be in control. And when I'm not in control, specifically with my children, I do get very panicked. I have severe reflux and GERD. My reflux was extremely bad when I was a child. Well, in the 80s, it wasn't really diagnosed. It was so significant that it actually put me into esophageal strictures, causing me to not be able to swallow multiple foods. And I actually have had my esophagus dilated at least in the double digits at this point. I don't even remember how many times. It's been so many. And again, we'll talk about that in another episode. That also leads me to what I've discovered as an adult. No doctor could tell me why my esophagus was closing all the time, and I was having to have it dilated every couple years. At one point, it was every 6 months to a year. I started recognizing that certain foods were upsetting my stomach, started eliminating those foods, realized that I not only had food allergies, but I had food sensitivities, to the point where I have a very, very finesse diet and I can only eat certain things now. If I stick to that diet very strictly, I've actually now been at about 6 years since I've had a dilation, and I'm under a lot of control with my diet, and I maintain this. I'm nowhere near needing another dilation, and if I continue on this path, I may be able to go several more years. And that's what I intend on doing. But it does require me asking a lot of questions at restaurants, and people do not like that, but is what it is. So I do have seasonal allergies. I live on allergy medicines. I have all kinds of fun things to help with that. I do have eosinophilic esophagitis, which is also known as EOE. It is basically an allergic reaction in your esophagus, which is another reason why I was having trouble and my esophagus was closing on me. I have seasonal allergies as well. As directed by my allergenist, I am not allowed to do anything outside in the summer, spring, fall. I don't mow the lawn. I don't do gardening. I don't do any of that stuff. That's all my husband's job. I have pinched nerves. I have bursitis. I have all kinds of that fun stuff. I've suffered from insomnia since I was a teenager. I don't even remember a time when I didn't have it. I can bruise by just touching myself. I mean, anything can bruise me. A small kick, a small bump, anything like that. That's a symptom of a lot of my conditions. I have a possible intolerance within my liver called the CYP450 intolerance. I haven't been tested for it, but we're working on that. It is a genetic testing, and it is very difficult to get tested for, as well as the Ehlers-Danlos and multiple other kinds of things. But this is one that's extremely difficult to do, and it's anticipated because I cannot take a bunch of prescription drugs. I'm very allergic to a lot of antibiotics, to specific drugs. I have bad reactions to a lot of drugs. I will pass out on drugs. I will hallucinate. I will almost have seizure-like activity. I will have a lot of bad reactions to many prescriptions, and it is very scary for me to try any new drug. I have to try it when my husband's home, when we have someone able to watch the kids, when I know I can go to an ER like now, or have an ER at my door, or be in the parking lot, because I cannot take chances. It's very risky to try any new prescription at all, even over the counter. It's very difficult. I do have trouble regulating body temperatures. That is a dysautonomia, POTS thing. I will actually show you ways that I deal with that later on. I have numbness in different parts of my body. I have been unable to feel my toes since a leg break accident I'll tell you about in a minute. I have ringing in my ears. I have an abdominal splenic artery aneurysm. I actually have 2 of them. I have bad scarring and scar tissue within multiple places in my body where I've had surgeries, even cuts, minor things. One example is right here. There's a little scar right there. I simply just nicked my hand on a door when I was pregnant with my son, just walking into work. Didn't even hurt, barely bled, had a big scar. I get easily infected. I'll kind of tell you about that when I broke my leg. I do have different types of arthritis throughout my body. I am suspected to have other types of arthritis as well. I do have very, very slow healing. For instance, a cut, which you would anticipate like a mosquito bite, that would take a normal person a day or 2 to heal from, may take me 2 weeks to heal from. And I scar from it too. I have hormone imbalances where there shouldn't be. I have female issues and excessive uterine cramping when I'm not on my period, when I shouldn't be. It'll cramp at any time of the month for no reason whatsoever, just because it feels like it. I have very painful periods. I'm suspected to have endometriosis. I have uterine polyps. I have a tilted uterus. I have a hypermobile uterus. It moves when it's not supposed to. It spasms. I will often feel like I have a baby moving in there when I am not pregnant. I actually will miss work when I'm on my period because it is so bad that I cannot move. When I was in high school, I would pass out in class and get in trouble because they would think I was sleeping, and I would really actually be passed out from pain. And no teacher would believe me. And after I had my son, we determined we weren't ready to decide if we were not going to have a 3rd child or not. And this was before really everything kicked in and my health really went bad. And we went ahead and got a Mirena, and my Mirena flipped upside down, went into the wall of my uterus and almost went through my uterus. It was so embedded into it that it had to be surgically removed. My OBGYN has been in the business for years and years and years. She has implanted, she told me like 100,000 of them. Only 3 of them had to be surgically removed, and I was one of those 3. And I was the hardest case to get out, is what she told me. So that's pretty unusual to be in my situation. When I did give birth, my daughter was breech. I do still have a dent in my ribs from my daughter's head, to kind of show you how my bones work. They are not a normal sized. It doesn't kind of work that way. My daughter never flipped. She was transverse at 8 weeks, at about 13, 12, 13 to 15 weeks, and then she went breech and stayed breech from about 18 weeks on. Every time I laughed, I could feel her head in my ribs, and she would kick my right ribs. And that dent is still there. She is almost 9. She will turn 9 in February, and I doubt it will ever go away at this point. And I never dilated with either of my children, and my son was head down. My water did break with her. I did go into intense labor, and I was in labor for a good 4 hours. She put me into labor right before her scheduled C-section. Her C-section was scheduled at 6:30, and she put me into labor at 3 a.m. And I never dilated. I never moved anywhere. My son had me in the first stages of labor for 2 days. Never dilated with him either. Later found out when I had EDS that can happen, not with everyone, but some people. And I'm sorry, EDS is Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. I do have problems with my teeth. I do have quite a few teeth that I've had to have worked on. It's partially the bacteria. It could partially be because of the reflux, could partially be because of the gut issues, partially be because of everything that's going on with me. My hands swell up dramatically. I've had to have my ring completely resized. When I got married, I was a very thin woman. I was a size 2. I'm about a 12 now. Can't work out. Had a lot of lifestyle changes. Now to my leg break, it was June 30th of 16. It was a very dramatic day in my life. My daughter was in preschool. She was about to go to kindergarten. She was going to zoo day, and I ran back in the house I moved quickly back in the house to grab my lunch, and I slipped on a spot on her hardwood floor that was a little slick. I fell and I broke my shoe. At that point, I broke my tibia, my fibula, and my ankle. I did have a not good surgeon who put a rod into my tibia, put different screws than my second surgeon would have preferred. The first screws started coming out in October. They had to be removed. That's when I had my second surgery. It was during my busiest season. This was when I was working with Medicare. And then I had to have a third surgery, putting in my fibula repair, getting my plate put in, and had 13 more screws put in. Then I had to have them all removed, finding out I was basically allergic to the metal that was all put into my body. I was told I have very small bones, and I was told that my reflux medication I'd been taking my whole life is what caused my bones to be so weak. The EDS later explained why they broke so terribly. I do have copies of those x-rays I can show you at a later time. I basically, as a child, we knew about that I had chronic back pain. We knew about my gastro issues. We didn't know what they were. We didn't realize that they were reflux. We didn't know about the strictures, but I knew that they were there. I could feel them. I could feel where they were. I could explain where they were, but I couldn't get it across to a doctor exactly what was going on with me. I constantly rolled my ankles. I remember dislocating my hip. I remember popping it back in. Again, no adult took me seriously that it was coming out and what I was saying. I was a competitive volleyball player. I played junior Olympic volleyball, and I remember my arm popping out of socket. And again, no one believed me. And it wasn't because it's not a normal thing to happen, and it wasn't extremely painful to me because I was used to it. And I was extremely flexible. I danced on drill team. I danced my whole life. It's only been in the most recent years that all of this has really come to light, and we have figured all of this out. I've also been told I possibly have mast cell syndrome. I have possibly gastroparesis, possible other gastroenterology, GI issues. I know I've got more allergies that are not listed. We didn't even go into the allergies that I do have. I have read some of my charts, a lot of things I haven't even put on here. I take a lot of medications. I take 6 medications every morning. I take another 6 medications every night. I take at least 2 during the day. And there is so many more as needed that I have to take. I carry 4 or 5 with me at work, and that's when I can get to work. I try to work full time all the time, but it doesn't work that way. My children are always my first priority. My family will always come first. My work will come second. And then I try to fit everything else in, but trying to keep up is so hard. The whole reason I'm doing this is I want to be real. It's gonna hurt. It's not gonna be the best thing that everyone wants to hear. Not everybody's gonna love. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna tell about what this does to relationships. It's going to be honest about what this does to marriages, how it affects your children, how it affects your friends, your family. It's not, chronic illness really tears people apart, and it really hurts. And the whole reason I'm doing this is because I want the world to understand what it's truly like, what we go through, what we deal with. And I'm not going to hold anything back. My husband's not going to like everything I have to say. My parents are not going to like everything I have to say. My family's not going to like everything I have to say. My friends try really hard, but they don't always get it. I've been lucky to find a group of women that I get along with very well and have the same conditions and similar versions of EDS, and that has helped me so much. But there are dark times and there are good times, and it's hard to get through them, and it's hard, and we're gonna make it happen. And that's why I'm doing this, because I hope someone out there sees this and understands that they're not alone, and we're gonna make it through, and we're gonna survive. And yes, I have a cane, I have a walker, I have all different kinds of things, and I have a handicap pass, and I use it. And there's no shame in that. And I get judged a lot, because yeah, I don't look disabled. I look perfectly able, but I'm not. And judge me all you want, I don't care. So I'm here. I'm gonna tell it like it is. This is my first episode. There's many more to come. I'm gonna do a whole episode on Ehlers-Danlos. I'll probably do a whole one on POTS. I'll probably do a whole one on GERD, on eosinophilic esophagitis, on a whole different kinds of things. I don't know that I'll have the energy to do much more tonight. But I'll probably do 1 or 2 more just because I have this all set up, and I actually made my bed all nice and pretty, and I rarely ever do that. But follow, like, comment. If there's something you want to see, tell me. I'll be happy to do it. Bye.